12. It's 12 o'clock.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the third of our series of webinars, co-hosted by Sage Intacct. I'd like to welcome you today, but I'd like to welcome you. You're here, but unfortunately, my co-host Rachel Singh is unable to join us today. Rachel's suffering from migraines. I don't know if it's a heat-related thing or what, but here in Southern Ontario, we've had a series of very, very hot days, and it could have something to do with that. And besides, this would have been Rachel's last event. She's off to get married as of this weekend, so congratulations to her. And we at the Net Effect want to thank her for all that she's done in order to help put this series of webinars together. Anyhow, enough said about Rachel. We wish her well. So today we're going to be talking about the value of integrating your financial and operational systems in a small to medium-sized construction environment. I know that I reviewed all of the information I had about the audience today, and I know that we've got a varying number of different businesses. Surprisingly, a lot of attendees today are based on Vancouver Island, which is great to see. We also have people from Dallas, Texas, and lots of places in between. But I did take a look at the nature of the businesses that you operate. And I think that you're going to find that our discussion today about integrating all of your systems and bringing them all under one umbrella is going to be very worthwhile. So having said that, we're going to get right to it. So as soon as there we are. Okay, today what we're going to cover the challenges that you face with disconnected services. What do we mean by disconnected services? Too many companies in the construction industry have either small and inefficient technology systems, or many of them have created what we call a Franken-app, where they have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and something that does project management, something else that does their human resources and their finances. But although they've got all of these apps in-house, they're not necessarily working together properly so that they can start to share data and streamline and automate the business processes related to construction. And I also recognize that although you're all related to the construction industry, not everybody is a builder. So we're gonna reflect on that a little bit as well. Why integration matters is going to be something that we're going to cover. How does the integration of finance affect integration with project management, with HR, with health and safety, and a great number of other applications that are going to be significantly benefited by putting together proper and effective integrations where each application is talking to each of the other ones properly. We're going to talk a little bit about Sage Intacct and the role that it can play in terms of supporting those integrations. Whether you're a large builder and you're working with something like Procore, or whether you're a smaller builder and you're working with maybe just some base level construction management applications. They're all good. They're all probably appropriate for your size. and Sage Intacct and some of the other Sage applications will work very, very well in the environment once you have it properly integrated. And then lastly, we'll have a period of time for questions and answers. One of the things I'd like to do before we go too far is that if each of you could go into the chat or the question and answer page and just tell us where you're from. And I think that would be a good thing for us to reflect on as we go forward here today. All right, next point. Oh, can we hear you? Can you hear me, Ari?
Yeah, perfect.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, an AI tool just opened up and it took me away. Okay, so having said that, the construction technology gap is something that we at the Net Effect see all the time. All right, so what we're talking about is, as I mentioned earlier, you've got all of these disparate applications that are, we'll call it a Franken app that you're using, but you don't really have them stitched together properly. So what happens is your employees and you as managers and owners of the business are having to reach out to all these multiple points of information and where your data is. And that takes time. That takes resources. That's probably going to be an area where you're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be errors, and there's going to be omissions, and all kinds of different things that are going to happen because you're jumping from one application to another in order to get the information that you need in order to drive your business forward. You've got manual spreadsheets, whether they be in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever the case might be. You've got different emails moving between different departments, different stakeholders, whether it be the clients or suppliers, subcontractors, or whatever. They send a project manager an email, but somebody in the finance department needs to see it as well. How does that get communicated effectively and seamlessly amongst all the players in your team? And then lastly, you want to make sure that you've got effective and proper paper trails so that the accounting and the accountability, two different things, accounting and accountability are seamless, easy, and mistake-free. And then lastly, you've got low visibility into your project costs and margins. How many of you have finished a project to find out that, oh my God, we really lost our shirt on that, or we could have prevented that from happening if we'd known sooner about a problem that had arisen? Okay. So the first challenge that we want to talk about when we talk about integration is the fact that because of the disparate relationship and the data being in different places, you wind up with what we call data silos. And they happen from department to department. The project management team has a great application that they love using, but it doesn't talk to finance. Or the HR department has all of the information that the project managers need about certifications and qualifications and that kind of thing of your staff, but the project managers can't access it readily without asking somebody in the HR department to share that with them. And those are the kinds of things where data silos really cause significant problems and significant disruption in the workflow that's necessary in order to have an effective system. You probably, if you have that, you do not have a single source of truth. What do we mean by a single source of truth? It's not necessarily one application, it's one database. Do you have a database that is properly structured and shares all of that information effectively from one application to another? In the work that we do, we call it one point of entry and one point of exit. In other words, I can put information into our system from any one of the applications that's being used. But because I have a single source of truth, that being the database, I can take out information through any one of the applications and know that it's the same, and everybody in the organization is seeing the same numbers, the same schedule, the same projects in terms of how they're advancing. So a single source of truth is critical for effective operations of your business. If you don't, the other thing is that you have, by having data silos, they hinder collaboration across your teams. Finance needs to constantly reach out to project management to ask them if a piece of work has been completed, and are we ready to invoice the next milestone? Or project management, I talked earlier about the relationship between HR and project management in terms of making sure that you've got the right resources in the right place at the right time. All of those collaborations are going to be positively affected by an effective integration. And then lastly, it delays your decision making. If you, as a decision maker in the organization, a manager, owner, whatever position you might be, you don't have the ability to take a look at your information when you need it in order to make the call on whether you hire somebody new, or do you have the capacity to add this project that's just come in your direction. If you don't have that kind of information at your fingertips through that effective integration, you may be losing out on significant opportunities, or you may be losing money because you're not on top of the actual costs and expenses associated with the project. I'll get used to rolling the mouse the right way. Okay. The efficiency drain caused by manual processes is a huge expense and a huge opportunity for failure in most organizations. It's even worse amongst construction businesses that are trying to manage field level data coming in, financial data coming in. You've got invoices and RFIs that are going out to subcontractors, whatever the case might be. Fact is that as soon as you have manual processes, even as clean as you might think, of copying and pasting information from an Excel sheet into QuickBooks, as an example, all right, you are going to, or Sage, as soon as you're doing that by manual processes, it is going to be A, more time consuming, and B, more vulnerable in terms of the process and the accuracy of which that data needs to be utilized. Higher risk of human errors. We are all human, and as much as we think that we can do things very, very well, transposing a number, or I did it twice this morning where I copied something. I was trying to move some data from one point to another, and I recopied the same data twice instead of the second batch of new data coming in. So consequently, my consequently, that those kinds of mistakes turn out to be quite expensive. Yeah, we lost an image. That's okay. The point is that it puts your profitability at risk. Missed or late billings, missed milestones, uncaptured change orders. How many of you have not captured change orders that you could have, should have billed for? The client had actually agreed to them. They knew the reason why they were going to be charged more, but somehow it just didn't get into the invoicing in the system, and the project's now done. The client didn't get charged for that extra work that you committed. There's blind spots in your labor costs and compliance fines. So when we talk about blind spots, if you are not using a fully integrated time management, what we call LEM, labor, equipment, and material management system, and things are falling between the cracks, and you're reliant on somebody's memory to say, oh yeah, we used that piece of equipment for, 8 hours on the job today, and they don't report it because they forgot about it. Guess what? That 8 hours has slipped by. I know that our good friends from the crane company have to measure that with a fine-tooth comb. And so whether it be labor or whether it be equipment, the fact of the matter is that you wind up with blind spots where you don't capture things properly, which ultimately creates very, very poor cash flow management situations. You miss an opportunity to issue an invoice. It's going to negatively affect your cash flow. And then also, if you haven't got it automated and fully integrated, too often there's major delays in the creation of receipts, or pardon me, invoices, which then creates major delays in your cash receipts. Okay, real world impact of a particular project, and I'm sure that all of you can relate to this, and I'd be very surprised if you haven't had a true real-time situation like this. You priced out a job initially at $5 million. You went forward, you weren't tracking things properly. Next thing you know, you had change orders that were missed or time cards that weren't completed properly. And the next thing you know, you've got a final cost to you where the project should have been $6.2 million instead of the 5. Maybe not to that same proportion, but we've all had that kind of a problem. The outcome is that instead of having a 3% margin, you've got a 10% loss. And boy, do they hurt. And then on top of that, you don't find it out until 6 months later. It's a pretty common story that we hear a fair bit at the Net Effect. And it's one that many of our clients have come to us because they have that kind of situation. And they go, hey, you know what? If we had spent a little bit to tighten up our data management system, integrate all of our applications together, that $1.2 million loss would probably have never occurred. Okay, why system integration matters. Unified workflow from bids to closeout. You should be able to manage every aspect of a project utilizing effective project management tools tied to your financial management tools, your HR tools, your health and safety tools, right from the point that the client says, yeah, we want you to do that job, right through to the cap off party. Everything in between should be able to be managed in terms of the workflow as well as the data flow. The real-time visibility on costs, revenues, labor, and materials, and I should also say equipment, are going to be managed more effectively. And if you take care of the nickels and dimes, what happens? The dollars take care of themselves. If you don't take care of them, you know what the net result is. You need to be able to make faster and more reliable, better informed decisions. We're going to talk a little bit about dashboarding. I know that Tim spoke about it last week. If you were here, how do you take that information and make it valuable in terms of decision making? And you will not be able to do it. Yeah, you can, but you got to pull a lot of pieces together if you don't have a proper integration in place. And then lastly, you're going to see improved collaboration between your departments. Finance can be actually a second pair of eyes on what's happening in project management. As an example, finance can say, oh, if it's all integrated, they can say, oh, you know what? We were expecting an invoice in from such and such a subcontractor. Their work was completed. Their WIP is done, or their WIP is completed, and their actual deliverables are 100%. Why don't we have an invoice from them? The project manager may be too busy, but through the collaborative work that finance and project management can do together, finance becomes a backup to that kind of situation. Okay, we were talking about dashboards a few moments ago. Here's a good image of one here. All right, integrating finance and project management. We want to be able to sync budgets. We want to share information about the commitments that have been made, commitments to the client, commitments to the subcontractors, commitments to suppliers. What have we got out there in terms of purchase orders? What have we issued? And how have they been properly allocated? Again, here's where project management is going to be backed up by finance and vice versa. It's project management's responsibility generally to approve those invoices coming in from a supplier or subcontractor. So if it's done in a collaborative, automated, and integrated way, it becomes just a few clicks of the button, as opposed to somebody carrying a file of invoices that they received and had to write with their red pen on saying approved or rubber stamp them or do whatever. We can eliminate all of that manual and data transfer. We call sophisticated term is data transfer. It's really a case of carrying paper files around in many cases, and that's what we want to avoid. We want to be able to collaboratively track our work in progress and our percentage completions. If finance is watching what project management is doing and they see that a work in progress is still only, pardon me, the percentage complete is still only 75%, they hold back properly on issuing the invoice to the client for that next milestone. If on the other hand, they see that work in progress was 100% complete 3 days ago, they will reach out to the project manager and digitally or otherwise and say, hey, we see that the project is completed. Can we invoice the client now for that milestone? So it's a two-way street in terms of that exchange of information. One-click generation of CCDC or AIA billings is possible. Okay, everybody has seen that the work is done. Let's go and click the request for funding, whatever your term is to get your milestone payments, and send to the client the complete and auditable statement of work that's been done to justify the milestone payment. One click. And then finally, all of that is going to lead to enhanced project profitability, analysis, and forecasting. Why is it important to have all of those things happening? It's pretty obvious, but the analysis component is the one that most people miss out on. If you have the ability to look at a situation and say, well, what made that one go so well? Or what made that one go so poorly? And you have the ability to say, I'm going to change my standard operating procedures to look like, excuse me, to look like that one that went really well, do those same things again, or change my operating procedures to make sure I don't do the things that cause the negative situation to reoccur. Integrating HR and workforce management into the whole schema of what we're talking about here. Time tracking, attendance tracking, managing everybody's project time to the right project. So if, as an example, if you've got field staff that perform a particular function and they're on project number 1, 2, 3 in the morning and project 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon, you want to make sure that the HR and the workforce management follows them from project to project, so that the invoicing is accurate for the work that they did in the morning versus the work they did in the afternoon. Integration and automation and the effective use of time tracking, or as I said earlier, LEM, labor, equipment, and material tracking systems, will make sure that that's done properly, make sure the right project is having that service or labor or material allocated to it, and so on. You want to automate the certification of your payroll and make sure that it's according to your wage compliance. What are we talking about here? We're talking about union shops primarily. All right. You will have certain shops that will have varying contracts for different from collective bargaining agreements from one union to another. You want to make sure that your HR system is keeping up with those CBAs. You will also have, quite often in some situations, you'll have different rates for the same person, or at least billable rates to the client for the same person from one project to another. So you want to make sure that your wage compliance in that particular case is being managed properly. Monitoring the utilization, the certification, and the safety training of an individual. The worst thing that can happen in terms of the Ministry of Labor or Labor Department, or depending on where you are, is for you to have a labor inspector come on site, and you've got somebody driving a forklift truck that doesn't have their forklift ticket, or they don't have their working at heights ticket, or whatever the case might be. Staying on top of that and having current and accurate information about their certification and their safety training and so on is very, very critical. Otherwise, you as the business operator can wind up with some hefty fines and some significant liabilities. Touch wood. I hope that we're not talking about this because you've had a catastrophic incident. But if you did, you'd want to make sure that the right people are in the right place at the right time. And then lastly, we're talking about health, human resources. For those of you in Canada, we're talking about core compliance here. In the US, it's reports to project anybody that's impacted, including the employee, that all is good, or maybe all's not so good. Maybe they're due for a renewal on a particular certification, and the system should be able to let every necessary stakeholder, including the employee, know that that recertification is coming up. Okay, keep going in the wrong direction here. Where am I? I'm going down. Okay, so lastly is the key benefits of a unified platform. Having that single source of truth. I can't emphasize this enough. The ability to have one point of entry, one point of exit, a common data set or data structure that all of your applications draw from. I'll talk about that a little more detail if I have time at the end. I'll talk about the impacts of that data and the utilization of AI in construction if we have a moment. But that's very, very key for in terms of a benefit. The next one is the reduction of errors. I think I've covered enough of that. But the one piece that's really critical, and I know that there's a few financial managers or accounting people on this call today, you are probably always struggling trying to get the year end done. Management and ownership said I need to have it done on the 10th day of the month or whatever the case might be. And you're constantly having to go department by department, person by person, collecting the information that you need in order to close off the month end. Guess what? A properly integrated system will expedite that that month end statement, get it done for you by the 10th without nearly the aggravation and anxiety that you're currently experiencing. All of this being said, your business will operate with better forecasting, better cash flow management, and better margin control. We work in an industry where the margins are already tight enough. If you can move your profit margin by a quarter of a point, go back to that case study that I showed you earlier, where they were looking for a 3% margin, they wound up with a 10% loss. If they had just managed it so that they wound up with, if you had the ability to increase your margin by a quarter of a percent on a $5 million project, there's enough accountants on this call. I don't need to do the math for you. You know what that means. And automation can deliver that. And as a result, the ROI on doing this for a number of different factors is very, very good. Okay, lastly, you want to have a scalable platform. If you are still dealing with a Franken app, it will help you scale, but it's not going to be ideal for scaling. It's still going to hold you back because of all of the need to run around and collect information or move information digitally from one person to another and so on. So it will be an absolute godsend when it comes to trying to grow your business, having the effective and proper data structure in place. Okay, now this is where Rachel would have come in. She's much better looking than I am, by the way. And so you would have probably enjoyed her piece. But what she's going to talk about, she would have talked about how Intacct and project management tools are now being very, very thoroughly integrated. Intacct has pre-built connectors for Procore, for Autodesk Construction Cloud, for Viewpoint. If we're talking about the top of the project management technology heap, but they have what's known as open APIs, or application programming interface software, that will enable Intacct and some of the other Sage tools to be fully integrated with your project management and most of your other applications as well. The I missed a typo there. The ability to auto sync. I don't know how I came up with that, but anyway, the ability to auto sync job costing, change orders, and revenue recognition is going to be fully automated by a tool like Sage Intacct. You're going to wind up with live dashboards. When we talk about a live dashboard, you're all probably familiar with dashboards, I fully expect. It's hard to find an application today that doesn't have one. But some of the dashboards are not in real time. And in the case of Sage, they are. The moment that a transaction has been approved, as an example, the receipt of an invoice from a subcontractor, everybody's put their click on it in order to say, yes, pay that one now. It will wind up being reflected in the dashboard that will then support decision making as you go forward. You're going to be able to take a look at all the commitments that have been made, and what is the actual spend, and what's the width, and what's the percentage completion. All of those kinds of things are going to be available in real time on that dashboard. And those dashboards, like Tim would have talked about last week, are completely customizable for the needs of the viewer. So in the case of a project manager, you may, they may see all kinds of things, but they don't need to see the company's financial profit position, as an example. On a project basis, yeah, absolutely. But the total company profit position, you don't necessarily want to exchange that with them. A site supervisor is going to get fed the information that they need in order to make their decisions at the site level, and so on. So that's going to be a very, very important component of what Sage Intacct can deliver. Lastly, you want to be able to streamline those workflows, getting rid of those manual entry situations, reducing the error factor dramatically, and then ultimately automating a lot of the workflows associated with the financial management as it relates to HR and project management. Okay. I have a problem, apparently. My screen is frozen. Must be too many people on this call today, Eric. All right, the last piece that that Intacct was the last screen is about the fact that you also have the complete integration between Sage accounting products such as Intacct and your LEM system. So your human resources, your time tracking, etc., is all being brought into that one sphere, that ecosystem that I referred to. That data is now, it stopped and then it came, there we are. Yeah, there we are. The data is all going to be centralized. It gives you a very, very clear picture of what your resource opportunities are. In other words, is so and so working at max capacity? Do they have more opportunity that they can be used for, etc. It's also going to do a very excellent job of tracking your data as it relates to your payroll budgets. As we know, if the two biggest expenses, payroll and materials, both of those are going to be properly tracked and properly managed in real time. It's going to automate that certification. Oh, did I get to the right one? I guess not. All right. I'm gonna just keep on going without worrying about the slides. Sorry about that, but for some reason my system is apparently hungry today. And then so it really is the last slide that we're talking about anyway. So the bottom line being that all of those resources, being able to manage all of your resources, all right, will make your company more efficient, more profitable, and a happier place to be for everyone. Okay, Ari, do we have any questions coming in from the audience today?
Well, so far we do not have any questions. I think everyone had a pretty solid understanding of what you said.
Okay. Well, I hope that I can give you back the next 20 minutes and 19 minutes and let you get to your day. Since most of you are, it seems a lot of people from, like I said, from Vancouver Island. So I guess we were probably I hope you had your second coffee by the time you came on. And now we'll let you get back to the rest of your day. For those of you who are interested in finding out more about what Sage Intacct and Timberline and the other Sage products can do for you, please contact us at the Net Effect. We'd be very, very happy to share that information with you. Oh, there it is. It came up finally. You can use the QR code on the screen. That will take you to the Net Effect website. And when you get to the contact us page, please fill out that you are interested in finding out more about what Sage Intacct can do for you, as well as what the Net Effect can do for you as well. I hope you have a wonderful day and a great rest of your week, and enjoy. Take care. Bye now.